Greetings, Missouri Mid-South. This is the week we have been waiting for years. General Synod at 35 in Kansas City is happening at last. We are welcoming about 2,000 people from all over the United Church of Christ, and we've got a few hundred volunteers from Missouri Mid-South and Kansas, Oklahoma, all set to receive our guests and show them our good hospitality. If you haven't signed up to volunteer or registered for Synod, but you've decided you want to come check it out, it is not too late. You can register on site at the Convention Center in Kansas City, and we can put you to work anytime you'd like. Also, remember that the worship service on Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. is open to everyone. So if you just want to come to Kansas City to be with your fellow UCCers in worship, you can do that without having to register and pay. You can also live stream parts of Synod from the comfort of your own home, or maybe have some watch parties at your church. You can find all the information you need about live streaming on www.generalsynod.org and stay on top of all that action as it unfolds. Also, I will be doing a Facebook Live sometime every day from Synod, so watch the Missouri Mid-South Facebook page for glimpses of the Synod experience throughout the course of the week. Also, please pray for our 20 delegates and our 4 staff who are here working on our behalf to make sure that Missouri Mid-South Conference's voices are part of the Spirit's movement in this place. We've got many more Missouri Mid-South visitors and volunteers here, all part of making Synod what it is. If you are here at Synod, please join us for one of our evening gatherings, or both of our evening gatherings in our hospitality suite. For all delegates and visitors from Missouri Mid-South are invited. Those will be Saturday and Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Just drop into our room in the Marriott, room 256 in the East Tower, and have some social time together. Again, that's all delegates and visitors from Missouri Mid-South are welcome to our hospitality suite, Saturday, Sunday nights, 8 to 10 p.m., room 256 in the East Tower. And now, I want to share a very special announcement with you. We have been working on creating a new ministry of the Missouri Mid-South Conference. Up to this point, much of the work has been a matter of research and a lot of hurry up and wait kinds of activities. So the we has been me and the board of directors and a handful of church leaders at Kindred UCC in Maplewood and St. Paul's UCC in Oakville. But we're at a point where we are ready to widen the circle and invite more participation. And the opportunity to share a booth at Synod came up. So we're widening the circle a little more abruptly than we otherwise might. I am thrilled to announce the creation of KPVF-FM, a low-powered FM radio station that is under formation as a ministry of the Missouri Mid-South Conference. Here's the story behind it. These last several years, I've found myself driving all over the state of Missouri and in Arkansas and in Memphis, trying to find a radio station to keep me company and not having much luck in many places. There's a lot of conservative Christian radio, but that perspective is more narrow than I find helpful. And I started thinking, somebody needs to start a radio station with a focus on progressive theological voices, something different than what I'm hearing out here now. That thought changed over time to, why doesn't the UCC start a radio station with progressive theological voices? And then it became, why doesn't the Missouri Mid-South Conference start a radio station with progressive theological voices? This is where these different voices are needed. And the more I thought about it, the more this sense of calling tugged at me. Why not us? Why not here? Why not at least try? It's something that we might not have the capacity to do on our own, but it could be an ecumenical interfaith project that would make space for progressive theological voices to be in conversation in the public square. That could have a huge impact on the world. That could save people's lives, to learn that there are people who believe in a loving God, not a judging God, a community where all are welcome and beloved, not just some. If one person's life is saved by being introduced to the idea that they are loved, that would be worth the effort of exploring what it takes to start a radio station. I started talking with a few folks about the idea, Reverend Monty Jackson at Kindred UCC in Maplewood, a few other people, and they loved the idea. And every time I mentioned it to someone, they responded with something like, that would be amazing, and I want to help. And did you know I spent 12 years working as a radio DJ before I transitioned into what I'm doing now? But how would we go about just starting a radio station? How does that happen? I asked my partner, Brian, who is a career broadcaster in both radio and television, about what's involved in applying for a broadcasting license, and he mentioned that idea offhand to Cheryl Lianza of the UCC Media Justice Ministry. And 6 weeks later, Cheryl called me and said, "You're not going to believe this, but the Federal Communications Commission has just announced that they're opening an application window for low-powered FM radio licenses. This is only the second time they've ever opened up this application window. The last time was 10 years ago. There is no telling if or when this application window is ever going to be available again. So if you are serious about this idea, this is your chance." So I prayed about it a lot, and I went to the board of directors and I said, "Here's this ridiculous idea I've been having for a while for a new ministry, and this application opportunity has come up, and I have no idea what our chances are. I have no idea what this process would lead to, but if I don't apply, I think I'm going to regret not taking this opportunity to try." To my surprise, the board was not just enthusiastic, but they expanded the vision. How many radio stations could we have? Could we do one in St. Louis and one in Kansas City? What about putting antennas in steeples all across our conference so that the signal gets broadcast more widely? This person has been thinking about starting a podcast. That church has been thinking about broadcasting their worship services on the radio. Let's have programs with faith leaders from lots of different traditions talking with each other about current events, or faith-based nonprofit leaders talking about the work of their organizations. They just kept going. The board of directors imagining a whole radio empire. How about we just start with one station and see what happens? And as it turns out, an organization can only have one LPFM radio license. So a radio empire isn't really possible this way, but a radio network might be. So let's manage expectations and just try one thing at a time. See what we learn, see how it goes. So let's go for it, the board of directors said. But funding is a challenge. So let's also figure out how not to use any conference money on this project. We've got a lot of other needs that we're trying to address and ministries that we're trying to support. We want to be good stewards of our funds. So the board gave me their blessing to apply for an LPFM license with the caveat that we cannot spend a dime of general conference funds that were not raised for the purpose of this project. The FCC application itself is free, but we needed to work with an engineering consultant to do the calculations for hypothetical antenna height, those sorts of things. I applied for a grant from the United Church of Christ Council of Conference Ministers, and Missouri Mid-South was awarded $20,000 of support, startup, for this project. Again, when I shared the idea that CCM was so excited, they all want to start radio stations now, and they want us to do the first one and teach them how. This grant allowed us to hire the engineering consultant and an attorney who specializes in LPFM radio, and their help was invaluable. We submitted the application before the deadline and waited and waited. Word on the street was we would hear back about the application probably at least 6 months, maybe even a year from when it was submitted. So sure enough, 11 months after submitting our application, we were notified that we've been granted a construction permit. That is, we have 3 years to get a radio station up and running with our very own dedicated FM frequency channel. We've hired our own Sonia Van as a halftime consultant to the conference. Sonia is one of those people that I mentioned had a background in radio, and I didn't even know it, but she spent considerable time working in radio station management before exploring ministry. And I'm happy to announce that we were just notified that we are receiving a grant of $15,000 from the Deaconess Foundation for further startup support. So now here we are at Synod, trying to generate more support and more funds for KPVF. Now, there are some FCC rules we have to follow. Our transmitter must be located within 10 miles of our business address, and our signal only broadcasts about a radius of 10 miles, maybe a little more in rural areas with fewer buildings to get in the way of the signal. So we are limited to broadcasting in the St. Louis area. Additionally, something like 80% of our program has to be produced within 10 miles of our business address. LPFM stations are required to be hyper-local. That is the point. But we can also do online streaming. So we are focusing on that aspect first so that our signal can be everywhere. Our signal will be global, not just local. We'd like to have KPVF up on the streaming platforms this winter and be able to start broadcasting on the air 99.7 on your FM dial in South County, St. Louis in the summer of 2026. I won't be here by then, but this ministry is not mine. It belongs to the Missouri Mid-South Conference. KPVF, Progressive Voices of Faith, is a ministry of proclamation and partnership. Both proclamation and partnership are sorely needed in this divided world. We will start the work here and see how it grows from there. We're sharing the word about KPVF here first and at Synod second, so we can seize this moment to raise funds and friends in what we expect to be a supportive environment. After Synod, we'll share the press release linked in this e-courier more widely. Meanwhile, if you have ideas for programming, if you want to help with making KPVF a vital and viable ministry of the Missouri Mid-South Conference, please email Sonia at radio@mmsucc.org. Thank you for your partnership with me and with your whole conference on this exciting new ministry. Let's keep up the good work.